Great, thanks, Megan. Lovely to see you all here this afternoon. My name is Rachel. I'm one of the co-CEOs at Five Talents. And whether you've joined us as a long-standing supporter of Five Talents or a brand new friend, welcome. It's lovely to have you here today. For those who are newer to Five Talents, let me explain briefly what we do, and I'm going to do that by telling you a story about one of our members. I've actually just come back from visiting the Diocese of Aru in DR Congo, where it was beautiful weather. As you can see, I'm feeling a little bit chilly back here in the UK, and it was lovely to have the chance to meet some of the savings groups that Five Talents is supporting there. The Diocese of Aru is 600 kilometres across. It's absolutely vast. So we were not able to visit every part of the diocese. Some parts of the diocese are also under militia control, so it's not safe to travel there. But we were able to visit several groups where the women were learning literacy, numeracy, business skills, how and why to save, and starting their savings group so they could form businesses and support their families. We visited a couple of groups that were probably about 2 hours away from Aru town, and there's no tarmac roads in Aru, so the journeys were pretty bumpy, took quite a long time to get there, but it was absolutely fantastic to see the women practicing their reading and writing and counting, saving their money together and making loans to one another. And then we visited another group, which is the group you can see pictured on the screen. That one is based at the cathedral in Aru town. So that journey was much easier for us. And it was fantastic to hear the stories of some of these members as they were sharing how their lives had changed. So let me share just one of them, one of the members of this group. She's a 42-year-old woman. She has 6 children and her husband has abandoned her. So she was left to bring up the children on her own. She first of all joined one of the literacy groups supported through Five Talents, so she was able to learn how to read and write and count. Many of the women in this area have not had the chance to go to school, partly because often education is not valued for young women. They are often married quite young, and some places also because of the war. So learning how to read and write and count is in itself transformational. It means that people can count the money that they have so that they're not cheated in the market. It means they can read road signs or use a telephone or vote or read the instructions on medicine, help their children with homework. So it's already massively transformational. But of course, the programme goes further than that. Once the women have learnt how to read and write and count together in their literacy circle, through the support of a Five Talents funded trainer, they then move on to starting a savings group. So each week they meet together, they save small amounts of money in a collective pot, all the while going through some business skills training and money management training through their Five Talents trainer. And when there's enough money in the pot, they then lend it to one another to invest in businesses. So the woman I was telling you about who had 6 children, she started a small business buying and selling bananas. Now, there was no market nearby, so she would sell them door to door in the local villages. And with the profits of that business, she is able to send her children to school. And she said her ambition for the future is to make sure her children can go on to secondary school beyond primary school level and to build a better house for them. So currently they're living in a grass thatched house, and her ambition is to build one out of iron sheets that will have 2 separate sleeping rooms so the children can sleep in a separate area. But she said perhaps one of the most significant changes for her is that her neighbours used to call her a nickname that meant beggar, because often that's what she was reduced to. But now nobody calls her beggar anymore. She has a place in the community, she's earning her own money, she's recovered her dignity, and she's facing the future with hope. So it was lovely to meet her and many of the other women who shared similar stories in DR Congo. Across DR Congo, Five Talents is supporting around 120 literacy and savings groups, but across all of the places where Five Talents works, that's 9 countries, we support around 30,000 members across around 1,200 groups. So today we're going to hear a little bit more from one of our newest projects in the Tsavo region of Kenya. So I'm going to introduce now our speakers for today, who are Peter Magendi, who is the Chief Executive of Five Talents Kenya, Xavier Kioko, who's the Programme Manager for the programme in Tsavo, and Wanjiku Muluru, who is the Communications Manager of the Five Talents Kenya office. So it's wonderful to have you with us today to share more about the programme. We owe you a special thank you because I know it's a public holiday in Kenya today, so you've taken time out away from your families and your day off to join us today. Thank you ever so much for joining us, and welcome all of you.
Thank you very much, Rachel, and good afternoon to everybody. We're very delighted to have this opportunity to share with you about the work that we've been doing here in Kenya through a lot of your faithful support over the years. And so it's a great opportunity. Let me just allow my colleagues just to mention their names very quickly, and then we'll pick up from there. Xavier?
Hi everyone, and uh, yeah, I'm very well. I'm excited to join you on this call so that we're able to share the wonderful story of what is happening here in Kenya, specifically around the Tsavo conservation area. So I look forward to a wonderful time as we interact on this call.
Thank you.
Xavier.
Yes, Wanjiku, Communications Officer, 5 Talents Kenya. It's a pleasure to be part of this meeting, and I look forward to contributing to our discussion. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that's the 5 Talent Kenya team. Xavier is our program manager for the particular program that we will be discussing today. And Wanjiku Muliru is one that helps us to tell the story of impact of what we're doing. So yeah, really looking forward to having a great conversation and really looking forward to clarifying any matter that need clarification so that you can understand the work that's going on in this program.
Wonderful. Thank you, Peter. I think the way we'll handle is I've got a few questions ready prepared that I'm going to ask to the 5 Talents Kenya team. So we'll have a bit of a structured Q&A, but then we will open up for questions from the audience. So do please be typing your questions in the chat box as we go. Megan will collate them all. Then I'll hand over to Megan to feed some of those questions on shortly. But first of all, my very first question is for you, Peter. Looking forward to hearing more stories about members of the programme. But first of all, we'd love to hear a little bit more about the region of Tsavo itself. I know it's a very beautiful place, home to one of Kenya's largest national parks, but many people on this call will never have visited Kenya or Tsavo region. So can you tell us a bit about what it's like in Tsavo and why 5 Talents Kenya chose to work in this region?
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I really hope after my description of Tsavo that I'll inspire a number of you to want to visit Kenya and visit the Tsavo Conservation Area. Tsavo Conservation Area is located on the southwestern part of Kenya. It's a huge conservation area. In fact, it is the largest protected area, covering about 22,000 square kilometers. This is home to Kenya's largest population of elephants and also Kenya's largest population of black rhinos. We've got a huge population of lions also. In fact, if you've heard of the man-eaters of Tsavo, that's basically where these animals come from. But we also have got hyenas, African wild dogs, and cheetahs that call Tsavo home. Now, because of this very expansive land and the population of wildlife in this area, the Tsavo Conservation Area is a very, very important ecosystem and contributes very significantly to the country's GDP from the tourism. It attracts a lot of tourists in this particular area. But Tsavo Conservation Area covers about 4 counties. Those are like administrative units in our country. So we've got a county called Taita Taveta that carries the biggest part of it, Kitui, Makueni, and Kilifi, where our diocese of Malindi falls. In Taita Taveta County, the entire land mass that is covered by the park is 85%. So what that means is people occupy only 15% of the remainder of the land. In general, the Tsavo Conservation Area covers 4% of the entire land mass of Kenya. So you can see we're talking about a really significant part of our country. Now, what has actually happened is that over the years, there's been quite some pressure in terms of population growth of the communities that live along the Tsavo conservation area. And you need to remember that a lot of land is already protected. What that basically means is that people are not allowed to encroach into the national protected area. So you don't go there to graze your animals. You don't go there to get fetch firewood. It's protected. But the effect of the growing human population and also the effect of climate change and farming activities that are less than adequate, there's been quite some crisis in that particular region because it has led to encroachment of human beings into the protected area. Mainly because the effect of climate change has meant that there is no adequate water for animals in the national park. And therefore, the animals have to go to look for water. And because human beings are the ones who store water, the elephants tend to go there to get water. And elephants don't have a lot of decorum when they go to fetch water. So they'll basically leave a trail destruction when they go to catch some water. When farmers try to grow their crop, they usually say that their work is to plant, but the elephants harvest. So what this has really meant is the whole human wildlife conflict has become a major poverty driver in this particular region. Now, with that background, let me just explain very briefly why Five Talents ended up in the Tsavo conservation area. As Rachel has given the very clear description of what it is that we do, we really exist as Five Talents to empower communities, mainly economically. But what we find is that economic empowerment is a complex engagement that requires addressing of other aspects that are poverty drivers. So sometimes you'll find, illiteracy is a major problem. So you're not able to even deliver a savings model to people that cannot read or even count anything. So because of that, you need to step back and first address these barriers before you introduce our savings group model. And therefore, when we landed at Tsavo, and how we landed there is that we have a criteria of how we expand our programs. We look at the places where the poverty is greatest because that's where we feel our programs have the greatest impact. And when we landed at the Tsavo conservation area, we found that this matter of human-wildlife conflict and conservation is a major poverty driver. So we normally call our savings group approach savings plus. And the plus is the other aspect we need to address, the need for us to lift the communities economically. And so this is an area we were not very familiar with, but we knew that if we are going to be of any relevance in this community, we inevitably must be able to provide a response to the question of climate change and conservation so that the communities can be able to wrestle themselves out of poverty. So I would say the reason we are in the park is number one, the high poverty levels. We believe we're going to have the greatest impact. Number two, we feel that there's a time for us in Five Talents to create capacity from within to respond to climate action because it's consistently popping up in the communities that we are serving and that we need to start growing the capacity, and we've already started doing that. So we have therefore a program that is covering 3 of the counties that I described, Taita Taveta, Makueni, and Kitui. The community development program trust in these 3 dioceses, which also fall under the administrative boundaries of counties, is to empower 3,600 households over a period of 2 years. And this would be mobilized into this kind of savings groups that Rachel described, over 120 of them. Once these are mobilized, we take them through their financial literacy training and small business training over time. Also, that we roll another level of curriculum that we are calling climate literacy and natural resource management training. And this is a curriculum that we developed in consultation with the community so that it can be relevant to them. And then the final part of this program, which is very unique from what we've done previously, is to help the community once they're able to adapt to the new reality and to recognize the need for the natural resources that are there, is that we're able to collaboratively link them to markets so that they can actually be able to unlock some income that they can then be able to build into their savings. And that way, we really are able to leave the communities in a place where they are more sustainable. Where are we at now? I'm so glad to report that we've actually hit our target in terms of mobilization. We already have mobilized 3,600 community members in these three counties or dioceses. And we've already rolled out the financial literacy curriculum. The climate literacy curriculum is what we are working on now. We've covered about 65% of all the members. We've got about 35% to go to complete this. And then we will roll out the final part of the project, which is to seek out other actors in the ecosystem so that we can be able to link these community members to markets for the produce that they'll be making. Let me just point out one interesting intervention just for you to see how our intervention has been very impactful. Now, in the communities of Taita Taveta, where we have a lot of, human-wildlife conflict, they mainly would grow maize as the main economic activities. And a lot of them have been destroyed by the wildlife. But out of just the engagement in developing our natural resource management curriculum, we're able to also identify that there are certain farming activities that can also keep away wild animals. And so the communities there, a good number have started engaging in sunflower farming. Now, how sunflower farming works is that sunflower attracts bees. Now, these bees provide, it's not only an economic activity, but also they're able to harvest honey. Now, elephants avoid bees at all costs because they stay away from them. So this kind of a crop ends up being also a deterrent for the wildlife, but also offering an economic activity for the communities. Well, let me pause at this point so that I don't gobble all the time, but that's really the background of how we are, why we are in Tsavo area and the progress that we're making.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Peter. That's a wonderful overview. I can see already it's a complex dynamic in terms of the relationship between perhaps the need for tourism and environmental and conservation of animals for tourism, which does contribute to the GDP, but also the human wildlife conflict area where some of those very same animals that attract the tourists and the tourist income are actually damaging the crops of the communities trying to earn their living in their own homes in that very same area of land. So thank you so much for setting that in context for us. Fascinating also to hear about the climate literacy materials. We will delve more into that shortly. And also the income generating activities that people are doing. I love this concept of people planting sunflowers so that they can attract bees for honey, but also I understand those very same bees get in the trunks of the elephants, so that's why the elephants stay away. So fascinating to hear more about the many different levels of intervention and support that Five Talents Kenya is providing. We're going to turn now to Xavier to tell us a little bit more detail about that project. Xavier is the program manager overseeing this work in Tsavo. But Xavier, before we learn more about your work, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. You're one of the newest members of the Five Talents Kenya team. Tell us a little bit about you, your own background, and what inspired or attracted you to join this work.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Rachel. My name is Xavier Kioko. Yeah, one of the latest members of staff in Five Talents Kenya. The programs manager with a special focus on the Tsavo conservation area activity. In terms of education, I have a background in sociology and psychology. I've largely worked with the communities almost in the same way I am working with Five Talents Kenya in my previous engagements. And so I'm pretty much at home in terms of working with these communities. I'm a family person. I have a I have a wife and a daughter who is about 10 years old. And it's exciting to have joined the team in April of this year. And I'm actually based at Mtito so that I'm able to coordinate the activity more effectively, support the team in Taita Taveta, support the team in Makueni, and support the team in Kitui from a central place. Yeah, that's a brief about myself.
Thank you. It's lovely to hear a little bit more about you. We've actually not met in person yet, so I'm looking forward to meeting you in person sometime soon. But thank you for all the work that you are doing in the Tsavo region. Now, as we know, one of the principles of Five Talents is that communities use their own resources, their own assets, their own skills in order to overcome the obstacles that they're facing. And we heard very eloquently from Peter about some of those obstacles that communities in Tsavo are facing. Maybe you could tell us, Xavier, a little bit more about how the communities are using their own resources alongside the support and training from Five Talents through their savings groups to overcome some of those barriers that they face.
Yeah, so very, very, very good question. I think the model employed by Five Talents the world over to bring about transformation is a very powerful tool of bringing about the desired transformation. And so in the Tsavo conservation area, it's not any different, and so the model we are employing is exactly the same, apart from the unique addition of climate literacy and natural resource management. And so we moved into the Tsavo conservation area, and just like we do in every other part, we mobilized people into groups, and the people themselves are the very first resource that we are talking about here. And as Peter has mentioned, we've already mobilized slightly over 3,600 members into just about 190 groups across, actually 191 groups in the three dioceses that we are talking about, Makueni, Kitui, and Taita Taveta. And after, of course, the groups have come together, the very first thing come to of they begin the process of the savings alongside alongside the financial literacy that we take them through, and then it's out of the transformation of the education or the knowledge that they get out of the training that they are able now to start making positive and decisions that will take them in the right direction as communities. And so the people themselves, the little amounts of monies that they have, within themselves, part of the resources that they have already now mobilized, amongst these groups to be able to start, moving in the right direction. They also have, the pieces of land and the shelters and the vegetation that they have around them. We have exciting pictures of people seated under trees, under acacia trees, as we do the learning and the education that we take them through the resources within their communities in terms of we have groups that meet in churches. We have community members that meet social halls that are available within their communities. And these are some of the basic ways in which they are already putting, the available resources into use as a way of beginning their journey of transformation.
Great, thank you so much. And we can see from this picture that it's a pretty arid environment. Can you tell us a little bit more now about the environmental and conservation elements of this project, the climate literacy training that you're delivering? This is relatively new for Five Talents, and yet we know it's increasingly demanded across all the places that we work. So really grateful to you all for pioneering it, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, in the introduction, Peter mentioned that, we have the unique bit of, climate literacy and natural resource management curriculum. He also mentioned that the way we arrived at this curriculum is by engaging, representatives of the many trust groups that we have. We brought them together in Taita, in Makueni, and Kitui, so that we get, and understand. We get an input from, the community members that we work with, and so, it's not just a curriculum picked out there. It's a curriculum that is informed by the local knowledge, indigenous knowledge of the three dioceses that we are working with. The curriculum focuses on three major areas, and so it's divided into three modules. The very first module is climate literacy and climate action, and so the focus here is getting the communities to appreciate the fact that climate climate change is already here with us. And part of the reasons why we are in the situation that we are in, the extreme poverty that we experience in some of the parts of this country is actually driven by, the effects of climate change. And so we look at the basics of climate, defining climate, factors affecting climate, the effects of climate change, and how it manifests itself amongst us, how things have changed over time. We look at probably the oldest members of the groups in the setup of the groups that we work with, and they're able to narrate how things look different right now as compared to the 70s and 80s and maybe the 90s. And then we are able to appreciate that really climate change is a reality and it's already here with us. And it's part of the course of the troubles and problems that we have as communities. The second part of the curriculum covers, natural resources, natural resource management. And of course, we bring communities to appreciating some of the natural resources within their vicinity or within the areas that they live in. We also look at, the possibility of how these resources can be exploited in sustainable ways. We look at the stakeholders involved in managing those resources, some of the conflicts that arise out of using the resources among community members, and how to go about solving some of those conflicts. And then the final module of the climate literacy and natural resource curriculum is adaptation and mitigation, which is largely the action part of this curriculum. And so we get to the point of now asking communities, now this is the reality of where we are. And so what can we start doing as members of communities, as members of trust groups, and even as at individual level? And so this is where now communities take action around, beginning to grow trees as a way of responding to the effects of climate change, making decisions around beginning to use clean energy as opposed to, fossil fuel. So we have, you know, people turning to buying, solar lights or solar lamps for use in their homes as opposed to using kerosene powered lamps in their homesteads. Uh, we've seen, communities responding by coming up with the kitchen gardens as a way of meeting the nutrition needs of their families. And so, the adaptation and mitigation is actually, where response happens. And we've seen and we have already begun witnessing the behavior change and the actions that communities are taking so that they reverse the effects of climate change in the areas that they live in.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I mean, it's wonderful to hear of this, the manual, the approach that is co-created using the experiences and the needs of the communities themselves, and to hear that it's already having tangible impacts as people are changing the crops they grow or the kinds of cooking fuel that they use, the trees that they plant and so on. I think there's probably something to reflect on for our UK audience, myself included here, when we think how many mitigation and adaptation steps these communities are taking, even though they themselves are not the main contributors to climate change at all. Their carbon footprints are absolutely tiny, and yet they are the ones facing the consequences of it, and they are the ones currently adapting and mitigating much of it themselves. So definitely something for us to reflect on here, but also much to celebrate in terms of the work that you're doing, Five Talents Kenya team. So thank you so much. I'd love to ask one more question to Xavier, and that's around any changes that you have seen in terms of people's perceptions of themselves. So perhaps a little bit less tangible, a little bit harder to see and to measure than changes in what cooking oil they're using, for example. But I'm thinking of the introduction I gave when I mentioned the woman from DR Congo who used to be called a beggar and saw herself as a beggar, and now she no longer sees herself like that. She sees herself as a full member of the community with her own skills and dignity. So I'm wondering if you have seen some changes like that in terms of people's beliefs or self-perception in the communities that you're supporting in Tsavo.
Yeah, well, it's definitely early days. We just concluded the first year of implementation of the program. And so in terms of outcomes, yeah, it's just the beginning of, what would report as outcomes. But definitely, yes, there are changes that we've observed and, transformation at individual and even at group levels. And, considering, the communities that we work with, um, I think one of the things that we've observed as in these very early stages is just the confidence that comes about because of uh, communities realizing that they can actually be in charge of their uh, trans transformation process. So the increased confidence, as we interact with these communities, we realize that we are equipping them with skills and knowledge, and therefore boosting their confidence and self-esteem. And this newfound confidence, is a way of enabling them to take on new challenges and making informed decisions, and now beginning the process of pursuing their individual and group aspirations. Basic things like improved problem-solving abilities, uh, as we train these group members on the basics of financial literacy, we 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 interact with them in such a way that they learn how to solve their problems in constructive ways. We've helped. We've seen groups that were probably characterized by conflicts and coming to a point of settling and addressing all the issues that were facing them in those groups. Um, you know, Enhanced leadership skills again is something else that we pick out from from the group members as we work with them in these early days. Uh, you know, people are nurtured into, capable leaders who are able to mobilize their peers and, drive the groups and the general communities in the right direction, driving positive change in the communities that they live in. And, that's very, very, very empowering. I think the model in itself helps also reduce, some of the possible conflicts in family setups, because women now can focus on one group as opposed to many, many groups that take away most of their family time. And so, yeah, these are some of the basic things that we can begin pointing out that, yeah, uh, you know, it's change happening. It's basic, but because it's early days, we look forward to a lot more transformation, a lot of high level impact, and outcome level changes. But yes, these are some of the things that we are already observing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Perhaps it wasn't fair of me to ask that question so early on. We know often those longer term impacts like leadership skills and confidence and peace in communities do take longer to come out, but it's really exciting to hear that you're already seeing those. So thank you so much for all you've shared. I'm going to ask Wanjiku to come in now and perhaps just share one or two individual stories of members that you've met through your work in Tsavo, so that you can bring them alive for us.
Okay. I think I would like to take one gentleman by the name of Obadiah. The Five Talents Kenya team can attest to the fact that he's one of our greatest success stories. So Obadiah is in a trust group within the Tsavo activity. He's in Taita Taveta, which is a semi-arid area. He's part of a trust group, and he's gone through intensive training of our financial literacy classes, as well as climate change adaptation and smart agricultural practice. So Obadiah is one of those people who has taken an initiative to train his trust group members and the community at large within that area on what he's been able to learn from our trainings. Beyond that, he's also taken it a notch higher by being more practical with what we've been able to cascade down to that trust group, and him by extension as well. So he has given a portion of his land, which is being utilized by the trust group members, his trust group members, to develop a tree nursery where they are actively planting tree seedlings. He also has a water pan that is able to supply water for irrigation, one for his kitchen garden, which not only supplies groceries and green vegetables for his family, but for the community as well, and also part of the trust group. So the kitchen garden is being managed, of course, by the trust group members, and they are also able to interact with our NRM expert, who is able to teach them on one or two things about smart agricultural practices, of course, maximizing on the output of the plants that they've planted in that area. As also Peter had mentioned, Obadiah also has sunflower planted around his farm. So this again also ensures that he has secured his plot of land. They are able to secure the water pan. That means that elephants will not come in and, of course, invade that, as well as ensuring that they're able to harvest what they've been able to plant. Beyond that, the trust group, that specific trust group, is also doing very well in terms of savings. They meet every month, and he's able to support our team in the field to advocate for, of course, better practices of conserving the environment, smart agriculture, bookkeeping, that is in terms of financial literacy. So he's one of the people that we can say, or we can attest to the fact that he has accepted the model that we are putting out there, and we are seeing real change from not only him as a person, but now within the trust group that he's a member of. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I mean, it's really inspiring as well to hear how individual members are training others in the wider community. And continuing that thought, I would love to come back to Peter and ask Peter how you see the learnings from this programme in Tsavo, perhaps being seeded or planted or replicated across other programmes that Five Talents supports in other countries or regions.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Could you allow me just to step back a little and just add just a point or two on a question that was very well answered by Xavier. One of the biggest impact for us is actually a mindset shift that we can clearly see in our communities. This particular region that we are serving, as I highlighted earlier, is an extremely poor area. And we have had other development institutions that have actually gone to work there with grant-making intervention. So it was a very tough thing for us to penetrate the community because to even get the community to meet up in a group, they expected to pay them something. And yet, for us, our intervention, we are not grant making. We basically give them a hand up by way of building their capacity. So it was very difficult for us to actually sell the model that we are here to support you, to build your capacity, but you have to do the work and you're the one to really dig deep. And so what has happened, we have actually had such a shift in a community where many were very skeptical that we can succeed because of that donor dependence in these communities. And that's how we've ended up exceeding even our targeted number. And yet we are halfway through the program. We've just completed 1 year and we are already over 3,600 community members. They appreciate our intervention and they can see how it's actually working for them. So that's a big, shift for us. And the other thing that was very enlightening for me and a light bulb moment was just to see communities. I don't know whether, when you are in such a dry place, water is such a big need. And when they recognize that that they need in their own, they are able to articulate at their level what climate change is. And, community members are able to explain that by explaining what Xavier was saying, that it used to be like this 10, 15, 20 years ago. In fact, in one community, they were saying there's a particular tree that is now extinct, but they knew that it used to attract rains in their region. And it's basically gone. So you can see people that are able to appreciate what climate change is and how it affects their lives and therefore their response. Of course, the biggest emission do not come from this part of the world, as Rachel as well explained, but the impact is lived out in this part of the world. This has been a big one for us in Five Talents. Our program, by and large, is like what I would say it's like a pilot. And we've worked very collaboratively with all our partners within Five Talents in the US, in the UK, and wherever else that we are working, just to continue sharing what we are learning as we roll out this particular intervention. And we've actually also, in the process, come to learn there are others that have specialized tools and curricula that they've done a lot more research in this area. And all these we've been able to bring together with a view to getting something that is more responsive to the particular communities. So how do we see this being scaled up? We actually are seeing the knowledge we've acquired, the curriculum that we have put together, plus what others have done, being a knowledge pool that we're going to be using across our places where climate change has a big impact in communities. We believe that this is something, it may not necessarily have the wildlife component and conservation, but the climate change is something that is affecting a lot of African, in fact, across the board. And so we therefore, just the same way we have seen matters of literacy and numeracy being something that is actually being embraced across the communities that we are serving, we are seeing this being an additional curriculum that we are going to be rolling out as we expand our programs. Here in Kenya, we as much as we are into our first year, USAID are very, they follow through progress consistently. And as a partner, they've been very impressed. And therefore, they've actually invited us to apply for an extension of funding to expand the program for an additional 1 year, which means that they can actually see that there's an impact in that.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Peter. And huge congratulations again on securing that grant from USAID and the invitation to reapply. We know that doesn't come lightly or easily. It's been a huge amount of work. I'm obviously not at all surprised that you've wowed them with all the work that you've done, but we should still say a huge congratulations and thank you to the whole team for all that you've done. And thank you also for all that you've shared today. It's been fascinating, really, really interesting. I'm looking forward, as you say, to replicating some of that climate literacy knowledge across some of our other programmes, as well as seeing how the impacts deepen in the Tsavo region over time. It's time for me to stop hogging the microphone now and hand over for some audience questions. So Megan, over to you.
Thanks, Rachel. We have just a couple audience questions and we only have 10 minutes or so I'm going to try to speed us through what we can. I can't guarantee that we will get to them all, but if you have sent in a question, I have written it down. So we will try to answer that over email after the event's concluded so that you can still get the answers that you're looking for, maybe just not right this minute. So the first question I'm actually going to throw over, I think, to Xavier. You're probably the best person to ask as you work most closely with the program. Someone asked, do the groups, the trust groups, only support women? We haven't heard a lot about that, and it would be great to know who exactly the groups are supporting and what that looks like, if you wouldn't mind answering.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And we work with all members of the community. So we are not specifically working with women, but with the cross-section of society or community. And while that is the case, yes, we have members of the trust groups who are women in the youth category or even over that 5 years, and men as well. And we do not discriminate who joins our trust groups, and so we welcome members of society in general to join our trust groups. And while that is the case, well, majority of our trust group members are actually women. I think slightly over 80% of trust group members in the Tsavo conservation area activity are actually women. So we are working with a lot of women. Majority of the trust groups are led by women, and we have quite a good number of men in the trust groups as well.
That's great. Thank you for clarifying, Xavier. It's good to hear. I think that's something that resonates across many of our programs, that they're open to everyone, but we find that women are the primary members who really drive the program and move things forward. Someone else has asked, oh, sorry, I lost my place. I think I'm actually going to throw this one to Peter, if that's okay. So, Peter, you've talked about quite a lot about the training and about the process of moving not just through the savings group training, but actually moving into this idea of environmentalism and conservation. Do you think the other programs in Kenya will learn from what you're piloting here and will take on some of the training resources that are being developed?
Absolutely. In fact, that has already started happening. We did have our all program partners in a training just a couple of, I think about 2 or 3 months ago. And because this is a new function that we have in our program, there was a presentation to our partners about natural resource management. And all of them say they want to actually embrace the curriculum because everything was so relevant in their various contexts. So yeah, it's something we anticipate that we basically will be adding on top of financial literacy and business, that we're going to be having climate literacy as part of the curriculum as an intervention.
Thanks, Peter. That's really great to hear. I think it's such a unique opportunity for us. I know in the UK office, we often talk about climate change and the effects that we're seeing across our programs, especially from the staff in our team who are working with the programs directly. And it's really great to hear there are new innovative things happening in Kenya that can help all of the programs, not just the Tsavo region. Another question for maybe all three of you, actually. Someone's asked, it's clear that you're committed to supporting training and transformation, but what's one thing that's happened in Tsavo that you're particularly proud of? It would be great for to hear from all three of you about something that you've experienced and what you're proud to see happening. Maybe Peter, we shall start with you, and you can elect which member of the team goes next.
Yeah, I think for me, it's what I actually highlighted, just a mind shift. That's such a big thing in these communities because there's an ownership of the change and the transformation. And that they're able to see, when you see a community able to articulate a problem that we thought is so complex. You can imagine explaining climate literacy to an old woman who has never stepped into a classroom, and you're thinking, this is gonna be tough. Only for you to see, because of the experience that they've actually endured, that they are able to really internalize that in their own words and in their own analogies. And that they can actually be able to come back and say, we like the savings group model, something that they had initially felt, you're not giving us a grant, so what is your relevance here? And to see that they've actually, they can see the need and the dignity that comes from them working with their own hands and working hard to really have the dignity of earning something for themselves and setting it apart. So for me, the one thing, mind shift, that just change of mind is a big one for me in this particular community. Xavier?
Yeah, I think it's just a way of backing up your point, really. Yeah, one of the things, one of the one thing so far is how the communities have embraced the program and taken ownership of their own development. I think we've witnessed a real transformation in terms of their attitudes and their confidence and the ability to work together to achieve a common goal. I know it's early days, as I had said earlier, but it's been very inspiring to witness the positive change of mindset and attitudes, and people beginning to adopt what will be life changing for them now and in the future. So that's the one thing for me. Wanjiku.
Yes, Xavier. I think I'll just start on to what Peter and Xavier have said and probably just elaborate it in this way, how the community is able to utilize the resources that they have, something that they had initially not envisioned to be as massive as it is turning out to be. A situation where you can save a shilling a day and in 6 months you have a good enough saving for you to invest and start a small business. So basically, I think for me, it's just utilization of the resources that we've been able to show these communities that they can be able to ensure that they are able to utilize maximum those resources that they have, and it will eventually change their lives. So yeah, I think that's my input on that.
Great. Thank you so much, all three of you. It dawns on me that we only have 3 or 4 minutes left. So I think actually, sadly, instead of answering another audience question, because I just don't know if we'll be able to fit one in, I'm going to throw back over to Rachel, who's going to wrap us up for the afternoon. But thank you, Peter, Xavier, and Wanjiku for joining us, for taking time out of your busy days to share more about Tsavo. It's a program that we in the UK office are hugely proud of and excited by. And I hope we've relayed some of that to all of you so that you can understand what is just very unique about this program. And Rachel, over to you.
Thanks so much, Megan. And yes, let me echo Megan's thanks to you, Peter, Xavier and Wanjiku. Really, really good of you to join us again on your day off, and also for all that you've shared and all the work that you're doing. Really inspiring. So thank you ever so much. And big thanks also to our audience for joining today. I hope you've found it as inspiring as I have. It's a great way to spend your lunch hour, but thank you for putting the time aside to join us today. I'm going to end with the usual ask we make at most of our events, which we summarise in 3 words: give, pray and tell. So people often ask us after they've heard an inspiring event like this, what can we do to support Five Talents? And there are 3 things quite simply. We say that everybody can do at least one of these and some can do all 3. So if you're not already a financial supporter, please do consider giving to Five Talents to support the work, such as all the work that you've heard about today. You can do that just by going to our website, fivetalents.org.uk, and finding the donate button there. So that's give. Pray. If you're a person of faith, please do pray for the work, particularly for programme partner staff like Peter, Xavier and Wanjiku, who are going out day after day on long journeys to train and support community groups. So please do pray for the work and pray for the safety of those delivering it in the places where we work. And then finally, please do tell somebody else about Five Talents. We're still a pretty small charity. We have ambition to grow much more because there's so much demand for the work that we do. The only way we can grow is if you tell your friends about us. So please do tell others about what you've heard today and share the news of Five Talents with them. So give, pray, tell. We would love you to do 1, 2 or all 3 of those. And thank you very much to all of you who already do that. I know many of you already do that as well. Finally, just a very quick heads up about 2 future events we have coming up. You can click on that link there, and that will take you to our website, which advertises them. But we have our Winter Drinks event coming up on Tuesday, the 19th of November. That's an evening drinks reception at the Army and Navy Club in London. We would love you to come along, have a drink with us, hear all the latest news from Five Talents. We'll be sharing some of our plans for next year with you as well. And it'll be a good chance to catch up with old friends and hear all the news. So please do join us for that. And then finally, on Monday, the 16th of December, we have our annual Christmas Carol service. So do come along to that as well. That's at Marylebone Church in the City of London. But you can find all the details on that link on the website. I think we're just about out of time. So finally, one more very big thank you to all of you for joining us, and particularly to the Five Talents Kenya team. And have a good rest of the day. Thank you all so much.